Thank you very much, Madam Acting Deputy President, and I rise to take note of Committee Report 7 on page 19 of the notice paper. Our country's million-strong law-abiding firearm owners know all too well the impact felt as a result of unwarranted actions from law enforcement. And so I welcome the Parliamentary Joint Committee's report into the impact of law enforcement and intelligence powers. I note that Section 2.4 details the background and events leading up to the inquiry. The principles of Australian democracy were considered as being at the very heart of their inquiry. These democratic principles of limited government, the rule of law and the idea of a democratic social contract are fundamental to our society. Yet time and again it has failed for our law-abiding firearm owners in Victoria. The Victorian State Labor Government is determined that Victorians who have diligently earned and maintained a firearms licence are to be subject to punishment for breaches of COVID-19 regulations far beyond those of the general public in Victoria. The Victorian Police have threatened to reprimand, suspend or cancel licences of registered firearm owners who blatantly and deliberately breach the current directives of the Victorian Chief Health Officer. That's direct quotes there from VicPol. This threat from law enforcement could not be further from those principles of Australian democracy, and it is the antithesis of what determines a democratic social contract. No other comparable sections of society face such obviously discriminatory supplementary punishments for COVID-19 breaches. There are no reprimands for fishing licences, there's no cancelling of your driver's licence. Only law-abiding, licensed firearm owners are the subject of this politically motivated presumption of guilt in my home state of Victoria. What is so concerning is that it is not an isolated act. It is yet another example of law-abiding firearm owners being singled out for unfair and discriminatory action. Licensed firearm traders have had to face unlawful discrimination from our banking system, having been subject to a number of discriminatory lending practices. And APRA confirmed that the banks had no lawful grounds to discriminate, but in many cases the damage had already been done, both financially and to the reputation of hard-working Australians. Many of those affected were small business owners, of which there are an estimated 400 in the industry, translating into over 19,000 local jobs. The State Labor Government in Victoria continues to use COVID-19 as justification to enact their discriminatory agenda against lawful firearm owners. In March, Premier Daniel Andrews and the Victorian Labor Government took advantage of the pandemic to unlawfully again suspend the sale of guns and ammunition in Victoria. This was followed by Victorian Police Minister Lisa Neville insinuating that firearm owners had exacerbated the threat of domestic violence despite there being absolutely no data to support Minister Neville's claims. Our community deserves better. No other industry has been subject to such a blatant, opportunistic attempt at financial sabotage. This is not fair, democratic social contract. The hunting and sporting shooting industry contribute over $2.4 billion to our economy in 2018 and generates over, as I said, 19,000 jobs. Law-abiding firearm owners are proactive in their community, celebrating a cultural practice, participating in sport, winning gold medals for our country and ridding our environment of feral animals and pests that do so much damage. Rather than discriminate against them, we should be thanking them and we should be treating them like every single other citizen. And it's absolutely appalling that the State Labor Government in my home state has chosen to use COVID-19 pandemic as an opportunity to continue to threaten and discriminate against law-abiding firearm owners in Victoria.